and welcome everybody. So as you're coming into the room, if you'll just share with us your name and where you're from in the chat, and we can kind of get a sense of who's here with us today. Hello, welcome, Sarah. I see we've got some repeat attendees, which is amazing. Welcome, Marnie. Welcome, Anna and Leah. And I'll also put into the chat here where I'm from. Yeah, this is wonderful. We've got folks from Canada, from New York City, California. That's amazing. From New York. Okay. So I'm going to say we can maybe go ahead and get started. We have a really wonderful and exciting guest with us today. All right, so again, welcome everyone. My name is Stephanie Cadaval, and I am the Urban Forestry Extension Coordinator here at UF. We're based out of the School of Forest, Fisheries, and Geomatic Sciences, and I want to thank you for joining us for our Urban Forestry Extension Council Speaker Series event. This is going to be our last event for this year, so I'm very excited to have Allison with us today. And as we saw in the chat, we've got folks visiting us from around the country, which is really exciting. And our event is formatted as a lunch and learn. So you're going to hear from our invited speaker, and then we're all going to have an opportunity to engage in conversation with them and with each other about the topic that we just learned about. It might be a little more casual than maybe your typical presentation, and we do encourage you to bring and eat your lunch if you'd like. I do ask that as we're listening to our speaker that we share our questions in the chat. So if you have a question that comes up while people are presenting, just drop it in the chat and I'll keep track of all of those questions so that we can address them in our questions and conversations portion. We are also going to be recording our presentation. That way we can share it later on our website. And since this is a new series, it will be really important for us to collect some feedback for you all. And at the end of our event, we'll try to save about 5 minutes or so to just wrap up and share with you all an exit slip. And that will help us learn a little bit more about your experience and help us shape future events like this one. So with that, I'd love to go ahead and introduce our speaker today. So we have Allie Bell joining us. Allison is the Education Director of Canopy, a community forestry nonprofit based in Palo Alto, California. She has a BA in History and English from Duke University and a Master's in Education in Curriculum and Instruction from the University of Virginia. She was a public school teacher for 9 years and has also worked in curriculum development and professional development facilitation. Her organization, Canopy, works with communities to grow and maintain healthy urban forests in California. Their programs work to create greener, more connected neighborhoods and communities. Welcome, Allie. Let me stop sharing
Thank
here.
you so much, Stephanie. It's a pleasure to be here. I know that most of our live audience is from around the country, but I wanted to share that I am also actually a Floridian at heart. I was born in Florida, and I'm the proud sister of two University of Florida alumni, including my sister, who I just visited for Thanksgiving, and she still lives in Gainesville, Florida. I'm also wanted to shout out Carmen, who is my colleague. I won't put you on the spot, Carmen, but Carmen is the Youth Leadership Program Manager of our Teen Urban Foresters. Thanks for joining today, Carmen. She does all the hard work, and she joined Canopy in October. All right, so I'll go ahead and start. Okay. See. Okay. So, as Stephanie mentioned, I'm joining today from Canopy to talk about our Teen Urban Foresters program, which is a program that is dedicated to uplifting youth voices and building youth power in community forestry. So to start, I wanted to share a little bit about Canopy. As Stephanie mentioned, we are based in California, specifically the San Francisco Bay Area, which is pretty big. So we are kind of zoomed in towards what we call the Mid-Peninsula region of the San Francisco Bay Area. So it's sort of between the city of San Francisco and San Jose. Probably some of the most like recognizable landmarks of the area are those of Silicon Valley. Um, and so that's the region that we work in. We recently updated our mission, and it is to collaborate with communities to grow and sustain equitable urban forests for all. So we are very intentionally describing ourselves not just as an urban forestry organization, although we do um, exclusively work in urban areas, but as a community forestry organization. We believe that trees will be more likely to thrive, and there's actually a lot of research that shows that trees will be more likely to thrive if the community is invested in their success. And so we do our best to plant every tree in partnership with volunteers and our teen urban foresters from the communities that we partner with. Um, One of Canopy's big focuses is what we call the green gap. And if you're in urban forestry, you've probably heard this term because it's not, unfortunately, unique to the region that we work in. But if just to make sure we're all on the same page, the green gap is the imbalance in canopy cover that is very common between cities or parts of cities that have historically been invested in and parts of cities that have historically been subject to redlining, blockbusting, discrimination, and underinvestment. And this is a common divide that you can see in cities throughout the country that's visualized here in some of the communities that we work in. So Canopy is based in Palo Alto, and we started in Palo Alto in 1996 as an outgrowth of a very enthusiastic group of Palo Alto residents who wanted to protect and grow Palo Alto tree canopy cover and started a tree committee, which the city of Palo Alto then very wisely said, we don't want to be kind of held back by bureaucracy. We want you all to be able to move faster in your work. And so they helped Canopy become a nonprofit. And to this day, we have a really strong partnership and contract with the city of Palo Alto to continue work there. But since our founding, we have done what we call branching out to partner with communities in the region that have significantly lower canopy cover than Palo Alto. And so one of those, which will be part of the focus of the talk today, is East Palo Alto. So this is a community that was historically African American. Today, it is predominantly Latino with still a sizable African American population and very much subject to redlining, blockbusting, discriminatory practices, and a lack of urban planning. And all of this resulted in a significantly lower tree cover in East Palo Alto than in some of its more affluent, historically invested in surrounding areas. So you've probably heard the standard that an ideal amount of canopy cover in a city is 30%. And in East Palo Alto, the canopy cover the last time it was surveyed was about 13.5%. So that is what we call the green gap. And a huge part of Canopy's mission and the mission of our Teen Urban Forester program is to partner with the city of East Palo Alto and East Palo Alto residents to support them in accessing and creating and sustaining the urban forest that they want for their community. And a big part of that is our Teen Urban Forester program. So this is this year's cohort, or this fall's cohort of 20 teen urban foresters. Some of them would probably be horrified that I'm showing you this picture, but this is them on their first day of orientation. Our teen urban foresters all come from high schools in East Palo Alto, or they are residents of East Palo Alto, or both. And they're a critical part of our workforce for planting and caring for trees, not only in East Palo Alto, but in surrounding communities, and also for connecting with community members in East Palo Alto and surrounding communities, as well as inspiring and uplifting future environmental leaders. There's a lot of reasons that Canopy elected to start the Teen Urban Forester program back in 2007, well before I was even a member of Canopy. Back when I was still in college is when this started. And one of them is that there is a disparity in representation in the paid green career pipeline. And so despite the fact that people of color make up 36% of the population, environmental organizations typically have about 16% staff of color. And so Canopy's Teen Urban Forester program is a very intentional step towards supporting people of color and having equitable access to and awareness of green jobs. It's part of what we're trying to build as a green career pipeline, where we offer these internships at the high school level. We've also had the opportunity to offer paid college internships to local residents and BIPOC young professionals and college students, as well as early career jobs to support people in getting their foot in the door in the environmental field. So the Teen Urban Forester program is a paid internship, and it connects high school students to urban forestry, prioritizing students from East Palo Alto, as well as a couple of our other branching out communities, particularly Bellhaven, which is a neighborhood in Menlo Park with historically lower canopy cover, and Black, Indigenous, and people of color applicants. And the goal of this program is not only to train these students in arboriculture and teach them how to effectively plant and care for trees, but also to build in them a sense of environmental citizenship, a sense of agency, a sense of their own power to shape their communities, particularly around issues relating to tree equity, environmental justice, its intersection with racial justice. And so on the right here, you're just going to see kind of a silent film playing of the green gap in the Mid-Peninsula region from a few different perspectives, while I share some context about how the teen urban foresters engage with it. So one of the biggest ways is by planting and caring for trees. So our teen urban foresters helped us plant over 100 trees in the calendar year 2025. Many of those trees are planted in East Palo Alto neighborhoods or East Palo Alto schools. They also help us care for our trees, and they actually helped to care for, I believe, about 2/3 of the trees that Canopy has planted in schools in our past fiscal year, which is a critical way of overcoming a very common challenge in urban and community forestry, which is ensuring that trees planted on schools, which are so important, receive the care that they need to thrive in the long term. And so our teen urban foresters have been a big component of that. They also support us in engaging community members. So they do what's called canvassing, which is where they go out into communities. And if it's an appropriate time for it, they might be knocking on doors to see if people would like a free tree or several trees planted in their home. They table at community events to spread the word about our free residential tree planting program and other Canopy programs. And they also work on, which I'll share more about in a bit, community projects that support the East Palo Alto community. And then so field work is what we call it. It's a tree care, tree planting. They participate in tree surveys. That's about 2/3 of what the Tufts do. And then we want to make sure that the Tufts understand the why behind their work and are also able to bring the skills that they're learning in their work with them no matter where they go in life. We recognize that, as high schoolers, many of these students are not yet ready to commit to a career path of being an arborist or an urban forester. But we want to make sure that we're supporting their development within their own career goals, and encouraging them to take an environmental stewardship ethic and an ethic of community-based partnership and an understanding of environmental justice wherever they go. So about 1/3 of our paid time with our teen urban foresters is focused on enrichment activities that is meant to build those skills. And I'll talk more about that. So just to give a sense of what this looks like in action, this is our fall calendar. So our teen urban foresters work 3 days a week. They work after school on Wednesday and Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. And then they work Saturdays anywhere between like 3 to 5 hours. And you can see we try to break the calendar down between field work where they're out planting or doing surveys, like tree care surveys or caring for trees, and then incorporating trainings, which are led not by me because I'm not an expert in tree planting or tree care, but are led by our trees team or community forestry team at Canopy, who are skilled experts in tree care and tree planting. And then we also have various enrichment sessions that our students are participating in. This schedule was built really intentionally to make sure, first of all, that these teens are able to attend. So it's built with their school hours in mind. And then it's also a very collaborative effort where our education team sits down with our community forestry team to talk about what planting and tree care and other work they need support with each season. And then we plot out when would be the best days for our teen urban foresters to support that work. So it's a very collaborative effort. So I want to just kind of double click into some of the ways in which our teen urban foresters support Canopy's mission. So one of the most critical ways is through tree planting. This is a picture of Bithia. She's one of our teen urban foresters who joined the program this fall. The program, I should have mentioned, it runs in the summer, fall, and spring. So basically year round with about 3 weeks in between any session. And once a teen urban forester has been hired, they are generally invited to continue coming back. And many of our teen urban foresters stay with us for like several years of high school until they graduate. And so as a result, we have teen urban foresters who become very experienced in the work that we do. And then we also have newer Tufts who are joining and learning. And we have a very high rate of retention. So like this fall, for example, 100% of our teen urban foresters are planning to return to us for the spring session. But in the summer, we had a lot of seniors and they graduated. And so we had a pretty big cohort of incoming new Tufts. And Bithia was one of them. And they come and they don't have to have any experience at all with planting trees or caring for trees. They just have to be willing to work and here for the right reasons. And so this was a proud moment where Bithia was post pounding for the first time. And she was a little daunted by it, but she received encouragement from her peers and from Arlene, who's our community forester pictured here, to encourage her that she could do it and show her how to do it. And here she is demonstrating her power in that way. Our teen urban foresters support our free residential tree planting program. So here they're pictured planting in an East Palo Alto resident's backyard. And then they also support community plantings, which can take place in schools, at local nonprofits, at churches, in parks. In East Palo Alto, currently, our primary focus for community plantings has been school campuses and early child care centers. Our teen urban foresters actually, after they've been here for a while and they become really skilled in tree planting, they become what we call planting leaders. And so we have a cadre of adult volunteer planting leaders who've gone through Canopy's community forestry school, done a lot of planting with us. And then we have teen urban forester planting leaders. And what that means is that when we have a community event, they are able to partner up and be responsible for a group of brand new volunteers and the trees that that group is planting. And they lead those volunteers step by step through the planting. And it's a wonderful way to sort of capitalize on their experience and turn it into something that's boosting their confidence and their leadership ability by showing them that they are able now, they are the pros, as they would put it, and they are able to lead others through it. And so together they helped to plant, I think I got the number wrong earlier, over 200 trees in the calendar year 2020. Here are our tufts also supporting tree care. So tree planting and tree care are the two biggest components of field work for them. In this picture, they are working the roots of a tree planted at the local YMCA, which has been a wonderful partner of ours, and we've planted there many times. We also host some of our enrichment sessions there. We've got Memo, who's an experienced tough, and then Bithia happens to be pictured again here, and I can't quite see who that is. And their work is supervised by Canopy's community foresters. So we always have one of our tree care professionals, as well as several education staff, sometimes multiple tree staff out there able to make sure that they are answering questions and guiding the tufts through, the nuances of tree care, making sure that it's being done correctly. They train the tufts in pruning, root work, mulching, watering, and stake removal. And the tufts have supported the care of over 1,000 trees in 2025. As I mentioned earlier, they're a critical part of Canopy's school tree care effort. And they also assist with our tree care surveys. So in several of our communities, we go out and we survey the young trees that have been planted within the past 3 to 5 years, to see how they're doing. And the tufts have been trained to measure the DBH, to assess whether the tree needs water using one of those, I forget what it's called, the sticks you put in the ground, the probe, soil probe. You can see I'm not the urban forestry expert here. Take a picture, assess whether the tree needs pruning, and all of that helps us communicate with the city about which trees to prioritize, as well as maintain internal records of which trees we need to prioritize. Here the tufts are pictured at a fruit tree distribution, which is one of Canopy's newer programs. So one of the really wonderful things about having students from East Palo Alto is that we're able to provide culturally and linguistically responsive engagement through our teen urban foresters. They're interacting with people who are part of their own community, who have similar identities to them. Many of our teen urban foresters speak Spanish, which enhances our ability to communicate with the many residents of East Palo Alto who speak Spanish. And they are trained in public speaking during their enrichment sessions so that they feel comfortable and confident talking about the Green Gap, talking about Canopy's free tree planting programs, and listening to residents and hearing their concerns and their frustrations in a way that is professional. In fact, one of the really cool things that the Teen Urban Foresters helped with was the development of East Palo Alto's Urban Forest Master Plan, which was created in partnership between Canopy and the city of East Palo Alto, as well as the San Francisco Estuary Institute, and I'm sure several other partners that aren't coming to mind now. And our Teen Urban Foresters led community listening sessions to ensure that we were getting appropriate and sort of wide-ranging input from community members on what they wanted to see from their urban forest. In addition to fieldwork, as I mentioned earlier, the Teen Urban Foresters have a robust enrichment program. One of the things that enrichment program centers on is environmental justice and intersectional environmentalism. So helping the Teen Urban Foresters understand how identity characteristics such as race and gender and class overlap with the way that the environment has been treated and where power has been centered in environmental issues. And so they receive in-house lessons, curriculum developed by our youth leadership programs manager, Carmen, who's here. And then we also try to expose them to more global environmental justice issues. We take them to the Goldman Prize for Environmental Justice ceremony, where they get to see and hear from leaders from all over the world. And they have a lot of experiences where they get to hear from people who work at local organizations fighting for environmental justice. We also incorporate social emotional learning into our sessions, in part because nature is a huge component of social emotional learning, and because a key part of developing lifelong environmental stewards is helping people make personal, meaningful connections with nature. And as students living in a city that has 13% canopy cover, and parks that are not always accessible or that don't always feel safe to students, one of the things that we're able to do is help provide them with access to nature. So, for example, we have a wonderful grant supported by the Mid-Peninsula Open Space District, where we are able to take the Teen Urban Foresters out on about 6 hikes per year. And the other reason that we do this is that these are teenagers. They're in high school. By spending so much time with them, we've created this really important opportunity to provide strong adult relationships and mentorships, and we take that responsibility seriously. Some of these students, as I mentioned earlier, are with us for several years. And so we want to make sure that we're there for them, that we are reciprocating their commitment to us by also being committed to their growth and well-being as young people. So in addition to wellness experiences in the outdoors, we make sure that we are just kind of checking in at the start of each session and asking students how they're doing, noticing who seems like they're having a bad day and having a side chat with them. We incorporate time for them to do team building so they can learn how to develop relationships with peers from different high schools. And we include one-on-one mentorship. So having individual conversations with students about areas where they need to grow as professionals, things that they're doing well, conflicts that they're experiencing, as well as how are things going outside of the program. One of the highlights of our social emotional learning is our annual trip to Yosemite National Park, which I had the pleasure of going on a couple of years ago. And here we are pictured at Yosemite Falls. The rangers at Yosemite have been so kind as to invite the Teen Urban Foresters out to help with a forestry project each year. So the year that I was there, we were doing preparation for fire season by clearing out brush and small trees in a particular area that was near one of the roads in the valley. And then, in addition to learning from that project and completing that work, the teen urban foresters also get a chance to go camping, many of them for the first time, do some incredible hikes, and experience this just wonderful opportunity for team building and bonding and creating community. Another piece of our enrichment is 21st century skills. So we, first of all, make sure that the teen urban foresters are trained in public speaking. In the past, they've done resume workshops and a workshop at LinkedIn, which is not too far from our office. We work with them on professionalism skills, so the importance of punctuality, appropriate attire in the workplace, how your language might be perceived, all things that are very new for them at their very first job. We give them opportunities to practice goal setting and to practice giving and receiving feedback. And then we do a spring project where they have the opportunity to integrate their knowledge of urban forestry, community forestry, and environmental justice into some professional skills that might serve them in other ways besides just pruning and planting trees. So in the past, they've developed a podcast, a short documentary, and we always make sure that their project is something that can be publicly presented to the community at the end of the spring session. This is our podcast, Canopy Roots, which is live on Spotify. The episodes were developed by a cohort of our teen urban foresters. And Carmen will be leading a group of teen urban foresters this spring and continuing to develop some more episodes. And I'll play for you in just a moment. This is the Sound Wall documentary created by our teen urban foresters as another one of their spring projects. It's a mini documentary, mind that it was created by high school students, and it gives some good context about their work and about East Palo Alto. Here it is.
Lots of people ask, what is environmental justice? Well, it's got everything to do with us. Growing up in a small town and historically people of color being excluded from environmentalist movements in the 1960s, I was always told nature was for white people until I started realizing that environmental justice connects back to people of color. Environmental justice is people of color. It is representation, and I grew up in the direct result of environmental injustice. However, the Sound Wall in East Palo Alto was a project that aimed to close the disparity of trees and access to nature that was caused by the Green Gap. The Green Gap is when predominantly white neighborhoods will have access to more trees and resources compared to neighborhoods of color such as East Palo Alto. Having access to nature has given many healthy benefits, such as preventing cardiovascular disease and high blood pressure, or even helping with mental health, producing endorphins and noise cancellation.
In order to create more access to trees in EPA, the Sound Wall was created in 2007. The Sound Wall is on both sides of the 101, where trees are planted in order to close the disparity of trees amongst Palo Alto and underrepresented East Palo Alto. And this year is the 16th anniversary of the Sound Wall. The Sound Wall was made possible because of Wangari Maathai and Canopy. As retired executive director Catherine Martineau contacted Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai, winner of Environmentalist Nobel Peace Prize and founder of the Green Belt movement, helped kickstart the Sound Wall alongside Canopy. Coming from a background of oppression within legislation, along with the environmental exploitation of her homeland Kenya, Wangari Maathai saw how crucial the Sound Wall was in terms of building equitable access to trees. Canopy originally began in 1996 and only worked in Palo Alto until 2007. Canopy branched out to East Palo Alto in collaboration with JobTrain. The collaboration of Canopy with JobTrain employed many students of color in East Palo Alto and gave them access to jobs as teen urban foresters and a stronger connection to nature.
Environmental justice may seem like a small fraction of a distant world, but it has everything to do with us as people. And we all deserve access to nature, and most importantly, access to environmental justice.
Forever rooted in our community, teen urban foresters.
Right. So just an example of what it looks like to give the teen urban foresters and youth in general the opportunity to use their voices to describe something they care about. And ultimately, that's really what this program is all about, is youth voice and leadership. So pictured here on the left are Bree and Jojo, who last year had the opportunity to go with some of Canopy's staff to present on the Teen Urban Forester program at the Partners in Community Forestry Conference, which brought together urban forestry organizations from all over the country in Chicago. And Canopy made the decision to submit our application centering these high school voices. Bree and Jojo had both spoken on behalf of Canopy before, and they did a competitive process to be selected from among the toughs to represent Canopy. And they spoke to an auditorium of over 100 people and received a standing ovation. And it really just kind of gives me goosebumps to think about the impact that must have on their belief in themselves and their sense that their own voice and what they have to say matters and is valued. And we try to seek those sorts of opportunities for our teen urban foresters, pretty much whenever there's an opportunity for us to talk about the TOUGH program. It is 9:30 in the morning here and they're at school. Otherwise, I would have invited some of them to join me here today. Another way that we build leadership opportunities is by creating a role that allows them to be promoted in recognition for their leadership skills and their longevity in the TOUGH program. And that's our lead role. We have two of them, lead one and lead two. And they have to go through a whole, hiring process, submit a resume and cover letter, be interviewed by a panel of Canopy staff. But the students who become TOUGH leads one and two then are able to help shape the TOUGH program. They actually lead individual enrichment sessions. So our TOUGH leads led our orientation session this fall and provide additional support and sort of serve as a liaison between their peers and our program manager. Everything we do in the TOUGH program, we place a high emphasis on soliciting their input and feedback. So we ask them how they're experiencing field work. We ask them how they're experiencing the enrichment sessions. We, recently asked them for input on a variety of spring project ideas that we had. And I think that that's a big reason that our retention rate is so high, is that they're able to express themselves and help shape the program into something that is beneficial to them and something that they want to see. Some of the other leadership opportunities include we've had our Teen Urban Forester leads participate in Canopy's Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. They are, as I mentioned earlier, planting leaders in community settings. And then they also have opportunities to be leaders within their community, as well as informally leaders amongst their peers. So I've mentioned a few times our high retention rate, and this is something that I want to linger on. You may have or may not have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's an education concept. But the basic concept is that there are certain needs that we as human beings need to meet in order to fulfill our fullest potential. And so the base of the pyramid is kind of like our most urgent needs. And as we meet this need, then that enables us to then worry about the next and the next and the next. And so you can see, like at the basic level, we all really have to just like worry about being alive, right? Like food and water and safety. And if we have those things, then we are in a good position to start worrying about some of the more fun parts of being alive, like building a social network, developing our own sense of self. And so, at Canopy, we always keep in mind that our students are high schoolers, that many of our students are low income. They are BIPOC students, and we want to make sure that they feel welcome, they feel like they belong, and their needs are met. And one very common barrier for students of color to that green career pipeline is that so many internships at environmental organizations are unpaid or presented as volunteer opportunities. And the students in our program, for the most part, they need to have jobs. And so we're thrilled to be able to give them a job in an environmental setting where we are helping to build future community forestry leaders. But if they weren't working for Canopy, they would probably be using their time to work for, a local retail chain or another organization. And so we intentionally did not build this program as a volunteer program because we recognize that these students have needs and barriers to accessing environmental opportunities. So some of the things that we provide to make sure that we're meeting the needs of these students and making environmental career pathways accessible include snacks when they're at work. So we always make sure that we have water and something for them to snack on because it's after school. We provide a flexible schedule so that if they have other needs, they can meet them. So sometimes they might have a family commitment. Sometimes they might have a really big project coming up. Sometimes they might be playing a sport. And we want them to be able to live full lives and still be involved in environmental careers. So we provide them with a flexible schedule where they know what our session days are going to be, and they sign up for the sessions that they can attend and let us know if they're not going to be able to attend a session. These internships are paid. They're paid at the Palo Alto minimum wage rate, and then the students get a 50-cent raise every 2 sessions that they attend. And that allows them to make a full commitment to this work without having to worry about financial needs that they would otherwise have to meet in other ways. We also provide transportation. Some of these students aren't old enough to drive. They might not have access to cars. Their parents might be busy and not have time to provide them with transportation. And we don't want that to be a barrier. So we have a van that we use to pick up and drop off the students. We make a big effort to help the students develop a sense of belonging by making sure that our cohort is diverse and representative of the communities of East Palo Alto. So we recruit from a variety of schools in the area. We also try to intentionally make sure that there's a gender balance and that our racial demographics are reflective of East Palo Alto. We work to build students' esteem through recognition, one-on-one conversations with supportive adults, and opportunities to skill build. And then we help them, live to their potential by making sure that their identity is incorporated into the work that we do. And that's all I have to share. These are some of the contacts that you can reach out to if you have any questions or would like to discuss the program further with us. And that's our address and general info. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Stephanie to run the questions.
Thank you so much, Allie. That was amazing. I really am glad that you got to come talk to us today. The last speaker session that we had talked about connecting people to nature through like positive experiences. And I feel like that was like a really good like through line with what you talked about today. What I'd like to do first is open up to everyone in the room the opportunity to ask you some questions. I know Carmen, you joining as a guest of the talk, but maybe if you have any insights about what people are talking about, please feel free also to participate. So does anyone have any questions for Allie about her work with the teen urban foresters? And you can feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question, or you can drop that in the chat.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm up in Seattle. I work for King County Parks. My program is the volunteer program, and we're also half the Youth Conservation Corps, and we're just like a totally different model from you. And I would say the thing that we're really building on, so sorry for the non-question, but at least I'm talking, right? Is like our program is so centered on the summer, and we have that one cohort for the summer. We can bring back a limited number of people in the fall, but like we're not built for that retention. So not even like, oh, we have a good retention rate. It's just like, no, we kind of just stop um mostly. And then like, yeah, it's just a really different model. And I love to hear like the different like cohorts are blending together, coming back and can stay like throughout their high school. I think that sounds so meaningful. And those extra levels of responsibility are also really impressive. So it's super cool to hear about your program.
You. And I'll emphasize that this program has grown over time. So Canopy is 30 years old. When this program first started, it was like 8 students, and it was primarily run by Job Train, which is a workforce development organization. So we got a lot of support early on. And then we've, gradually increased the size as we've been able to see success and then get grant money to fund this program. And also as every time we expand the program to be longer or more students, we also have to pause and look around at Canopy's whole infrastructure. Like, do we have enough, tree staff to support them? Do we have enough operations people? And so, yeah, it's a very like gradual, process. And yeah, we're really grateful to be where we are today.
Yeah, it also sounds, Allie, like what you were talking about, Anna, having people come back like year after year. It sounds like there's opportunities too to have like peer-to-peer learning happen. Is that something that you all like experience? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things. It's just like when we do any field work, right now, because 9 of our students are new and 11 are returning, we literally look around the circle and we say, okay, I need an experienced tough in every group. And we'll have new staff members come on who are being trained in tree planting and tree care. And so we'll say, okay, I need an experienced tough with this staff member because they're still learning how to do it. And so those toughs, we really trust them. I mean, we still want, our staff around to be able to answer questions and kind of make sure everything's going right. But they've planted a lot of trees, they've cared for a lot of trees, they've seen a lot of things. And so yeah, it's really cool to see like just one tough coaching another tough on the steps of planting a tree. And we train them to like how to teach that. So we train them like how to, it's not just that you do it for them. We want you to be verbalizing the steps. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And then like asking your peer questions. And one of the things that's cool is that they kind of look out for each other to be like, oh, like Eddie hasn't had an opportunity to like remove a stake before, so let's let Eddie do that. And they're kind of making sure that everybody, especially early on, is learning how to do everything.
That's really cool. And I imagine that you're also probably seeing them interact that way with the community when they're engaging with people in their community. Are they using those like teaching skills for that for people in their community as well?
Yeah, that's part of them being a planting leader. And it's even like a different and more interesting dynamic because it's adults that they're unfamiliar with. And so, adults come in often and they're like not always ready to take cues from teens, but they really do like know what they're talking about. We had a great example recently of their leadership. Carmen, would you like to share that story about Yael at the montage planting?
Yeah, we had recently had a community planting at it was like an HOA. So it was a complex with a whole bunch of different residences. And at things happen at plantings, it's kind of just bound to happen. But one of the toughs was in a group where an irrigation pipe was broken. But it was very much like everyone in the group, like, yes, the tough in the group, Yael was not the planting lead, but since he already had so much experience, because he's been with the program for a few sessions now, he took that initiative right away to go find a tree staff, and go ahead and tell what had happened, because he knew that if they had tried to like fix it on their own or tried to resolve it, it probably wasn't going to get resolved as quickly as it needed to be, with the gravity of like an irrigation pipe being broken. So it's just amazing to see his ability to take that responsibility and be like, our group did it. Like, here's what happened. Like, how can we help to try to best address it? And by reaching out to the team, they were able to fix it, I believe, in that same day. But it really just shows that they also are willing to take responsibility if things go wrong. And like, they really know the steps of who to go to, at all of our plantings. And I think for a lot of other community members, like volunteers, it might just be scary that they accidentally did something, but it's just also understanding that that's the process and also addressing that with the group as well. So it was just a great example of them taking that initiative of being responsible and holding each other accountable for things that happen that are out of your control.
Very cool. Are there any other questions from the group? Maybe some other examples that you all have from working with youth in your own communities. I'm actually very curious about how others in the group may have worked with young people in the past or haven't worked with young people in the past. And we have a poll here that we could do to kind of get a sense of what that might look like. Let's see. And I'll go ahead and share that. So if you're seeing my poll, if you just give me a thumbs up. Okay, fantastic. So how do you currently see you?
Presenter mode if you want to swap it.
Okay, thank you so much. So it should look like this. All right, so how do you currently see youth engaging in urban forestry? Yeah, so volunteer events, school events, college age students interning, employing them with local conservation corps, high school community service hours. Yeah, definitely. Is that something that you do in California and your students are able to do through your program?
Yeah, so the high school community service hours, we do keep it separate from employment because like employment is not volunteer work, although it does bring up some challenges because, these students are giving 10 hours a week to Canopy, and then when are they supposed to find time to volunteer as well? But we have another program called the Junior Forester Leader Program where it's strictly volunteer based, works with the same demographic of students, but they come and they shadow our environmental educator and then they develop and deliver lessons. And then we also, all of our community plantings are open to volunteers. So local youth can come and earn volunteer hours through those. And then for our teen urban foresters, we do try to work with them if they want to do their service hours through us. We just say, let's figure out some projects that you can do outside of work time.
Yeah, and I don't remember if you mentioned this in your talk, Ellie, but how do students find you? Like how do they initiate like, oh, I want to participate in this?
Yeah, so we have strong partnerships with the schools in the area, and so we go into the schools to recruit. So we basically bring a table at lunchtime and set up, and students can come up that way. At this point, because we've been around for a while, there's also just a really strong word of mouth reputation, and so students are. We actually have like a waiting list every time that we have to hire of students who are interested.
Hmm. Yeah. And so we've got another question for the group here. What kinds of challenges or opportunities come up when you consider expanding the role of youth in community forestry efforts? So maybe thinking about some of those like volunteer things that you all mentioned, school programs, things like that. What kinds of challenges come with that, or what kinds of opportunities?
Yeah, I'll comment as I see them come up. Transportation has definitely been a big challenge for us. We were lucky to have a Sprinter van that seats eight, and we've for years have sort of resource shared that with our community forestry team. So it's got all the like shovels and planting leader bags and tarps in the back, and then we put eight students in there, and you drive around and you hear everything go like every time you turn a corner. Um, but we recently were awarded a grant to purchase a 15 passenger van, and that was after years of looking for that. And then we also have budget to do rideshare services. So we have the parents sign that they are allow their students to do rideshare, so that if especially because we're running a 20-person program with an 8 passenger van, so sometimes we needed a little bit of extra help. And then, yeah, staff capacity is huge because it's really not just, Carmen. It's also all of those fieldwork staff. And then our operations manager has to onboard 20 toughs, and someone has to fundraise to keep the program going. Classroom space, we've had some success with our high schools recently. Actually, one of our high schools is graciously allowing us to use a classroom after school for free. And then we've also partnered with community space nonprofits to reserve their space for free. And then the local YMCA has also been gracious in providing discounted space for us to meet.
Yeah, thanks for that. It sounds like partnerships overall are incredibly important, not just for your program, but just in general in urban forestry. We see that oftentimes partnerships really help make
For
things
sure.
happen. So we are coming to the end of our meeting time. I do have one question that I just want to ask that's from the chat, if you all have time for that. Allie, do you have
Yeah,
time for one
that's
more
fine.
question? So we had someone ask in the chat about your wait list. Is it first come, first serve? Is it a lottery? Like, how is it that like students end up getting chosen?
It's an application process. So they fill out an application, and then we invite students to do an interview. We're kind of looking for like a few things. We want the cohort to be, diverse in age and gender and schools represented, et cetera. And then we also are looking for students who, are going to be committed, who are there for the right reason. So they're interested in helping their community, or they want to learn more about the environment. And then, to be honest, we're looking for students who are going to benefit from this program. So it's not necessarily like, if we see a student who's got like 10,000 extracurriculars and they're crushing it everywhere, we're like, that's great, you're fine. Like, but we want to take the students who maybe need a home, or maybe needs like an opportunity to have to be a part of a community and be part of something bigger. So students who are maybe a little shy or a little bit less confident often find a home at Canopy and have a chance to grow over a period of a couple of years.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ali and Carmen, for your insights. And thanks everyone for participating with us. Really quick before we just wrap up here, I want to share I hope you're seeing my correct screen here. I just want to share where you all can find this presentation later. So this was our last presentation for the speaker series this year. So thanks so much, Ali and Carmen, for helping wrap up this awesome series. And look forward to an additional series coming up next year. And we'll announce that once we have that organized. And you'll be able to see this presentation or the recording of the presentation on our YouTube page. So you'll be able to find that with this QR code. And I'll also share that information with you all later. And if you are able to, we really appreciate if you're able to share with us some of your feedback. That helps to support future events like this one. If you liked this speaker series and you'd like to see more things like this, it helps us to know what went well, what didn't go well. That way we can really cater to the things that you need and that things that will help you learn. So I also dropped the link for that in the chat. And with that, I just want to thank you again, Ali, so much for joining us all the way from California and telling us all about your amazing program. Thank you so much.
Sure, thanks for having us.